The mysterious power of lightning. Early understanding of electricity, long before the concept of electricity became a subject of scientific inquiry. Humans were both awed and terrified by the natural phenomena we now understand as electrical energy. Across cultures and continents, lightning was considered divine, mysterious, and sometimes destructive. People worshipped the sky gods who sent lightning as both punishment and message. In ancient Greece, Zeus wielded his thunderbolts, while the Norse feared Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, striking the heavens. These were early interpretations of electricity, understood not as a natural force, but as a supernatural manifestation. It was only with careful observation and philosophical inquiry that humans began to notice that certain materials could produce strange, invisible forces. Around 600 BCE, the Greek philosopher Thales of Miletus discovered that rubbing amber against fur could create an attraction between the two objects. He noticed that small bits of straw or feathers would cling to the amber, a phenomenon we now recognize as static electricity. Thales' experiments were rudimentary, but they marked one of the earliest documented observations of electrical effects in nature. For centuries, these phenomena remained curiosities, largely separate from everyday life. Scholars in the Middle Ages examined magical or marvelous effects, but lacked a conceptual framework to understand them scientifically. The term electricity itself would not be coined for many more centuries. Yet, these early observations laid the groundwork for the centuries of experimentation to follow. In the 1600s, Europe began a period of scientific revival. Curious minds sought to classify, measure, and understand natural phenomena. William Gilbert, an English physician and scientist, wrote De Magnet in 1600, distinguishing between magnetism and the effects produced by rubbed amber. He introduced the term electricus, meaning like amber, which gave rise to the modern word electricity. Gilbert's work shifted electricity from superstition into the realm of natural philosophy, a precursor to modern science. The 18th century brought experimentation that deepened our understanding. Scientists like Stephen Gray discovered that electricity could be conducted through wires, separating materials into conductors and insulators. Charles-François Dufay identified two types of electricity, which he called vitreous and resinous, now understood as positive and negative charges. These discoveries transformed electricity from a curiosity into a field of scientific study, laying the foundation for experimentation that would eventually power the modern world. Meanwhile, Benjamin Franklin in the American colonies took a bolder approach. Franklin was fascinated by lightning and its potential connection to electrical phenomena observed in the laboratory. His famous kite experiment in 1752 demonstrated that lightning was, in fact, electrical in nature. Flying a kite in a thunderstorm, he drew sparks from a key attached to the string, confirming that the electricity in a storm was similar to the static electricity studied in controlled experiments. This daring experiment not only advanced scientific knowledge, but also captured the imagination of the public, connecting electricity to the natural world in a tangible, awe-inspiring way. Across Europe, other inventors and scientists were building the foundation for a new era. Luigi Galvani in Italy experimented with frogs' legs in the 1780s, observing that muscles twitched when struck by electrical sparks. This led to his theory of animal electricity, a concept that would influence Alessandro Volta and the eventual invention of the battery. These experiments were not merely academic, they demonstrated that electricity could produce motion, hinting at the potential for practical applications in human technology. By the turn of the 19th century, the stage was set for a revolution. Electricity was no longer confined to mystical interpretations or isolated experiments. It was becoming a measurable, manipulable force, capable of powering devices and eventually transforming daily life. Scientists had discovered conductors and insulators, positive and negative charges, and the relationship between electricity and magnetism. These breakthroughs were preparing humanity for the next stage, creating reliable sources of electrical power and devising tools that could harness it. As you relax and imagine the first sparks leaping from rubbed amber or lightning streaking across a stormy sky, filled the wonder and curiosity of early humans witnessing forces they could not yet explain. It was a slow, steady accumulation of knowledge built on careful observation, daring experimentation, and an unending desire to understand the invisible forces around us. These humble beginnings would eventually lead to the inventions that light our homes, power our cities, and connect our world in ways Thales and Franklin could scarcely imagine. Alessandro Volta and the birth of electric current, as the 18th century gave way to the 19th. The study of electricity began to transition from curiosity and experimentation to practical, measurable science. While Benjamin Franklin had shown that lightning and laboratory sparks shared the same fundamental force, it was Alessandro Volta, an Italian physicist, who took the next crucial step, creating a steady source of electric current. Volta was fascinated by the work of Luigi Galvani, who had discovered that frog muscles twitched when exposed to electrical sparks. Galvani believed this movement was caused by animal electricity inherent in living tissue. Volta, however, was skeptical. He proposed that the effect was not unique to animals, but rather the result of two different metals connected by a moist conductor. In other words, electricity could be generated chemically. In 1800, Volta unveiled his groundbreaking invention, the voltaic pile, the world's first true battery, constructed from alternating discs of zinc and copper, separated by pieces of cloth soaked in salt water. The voltaic pile produced a continuous flow of electricity for the first time in human history. Unlike the brief sparks of static experiments, this device could sustain a current, marking the birth of electrical energy as a controllable, usable force. Volta's battery was revolutionary. It enabled scientists to perform experiments that had been impossible before. For the first time, electricity could be applied in a predictable and steady manner, allowing researchers to study its effects on metals, chemicals, and even living tissue over extended periods. This opened the door to the systematic exploration of electrochemistry and laid the foundation for technological applications that would change the world. Soon after Volta's invention, scientists across Europe began experimenting with his battery. Humphrey Davy in England used large voltaic piles to conduct some of the earliest electrochemical experiments. Davy passed electric currents through chemicals and discovered new elements, including sodium and potassium, demonstrating that electricity could decompose substances in ways previously unimaginable. These experiments revealed a profound connection between electricity and the material world, showing that this invisible force could create tangible, measurable change. Meanwhile, in France, investigated the relationship between electricity and magnetism. His experiments revealed that electric currents produced magnetic fields, leading to the foundation of electrodynamics, the branch of physics that describes how electricity and magnetism interact. This insight was critical because it connected the study of electricity to broader forces in nature, paving the way for the development of motors, generators, and eventually power grids. The early 19th century was a period of rapid discovery. Scientists like Georg O.M. formulated laws describing electrical resistance, while Michael Faraday conducted experiments that revealed electromagnetic induction, the principle that moving a conductor through a magnetic field generates electric current. These discoveries provided the theoretical and experimental framework necessary for harnessing electricity on a large scale. During this period, electricity was still largely confined to laboratories and scientific demonstrations. However, the implications were enormous. Volta's battery proved that electricity could be generated reliably. Davy's experiments revealed its chemical potential, and Faraday's discoveries showed that it could be converted into motion and force. Together, these insights marked the transition from electricity as a mysterious phenomenon to electricity as a tool for human innovation. By the mid-1800s, inventors and engineers began exploring ways to use electricity for communication and illumination. Telegraph systems, powered by batteries and guided by the principles discovered by these early pioneers, allowed messages to travel across continents at unprecedented speed. Each wire carried not only an electric current, but also the promise of a connected world. a vision that would ultimately lead to electric lights, motors, and the complex electrical networks that power modern life. As you relax and imagine Volta stacking his zinc and copper discs, or Faraday carefully observing the sparks of induced current in a coiled wire, feel the sense of wonder that must have filled these early laboratories. These scientists were explorers, charting invisible currents and forces, slowly uncovering the principles that would one day light cities, power machines, and connect the world in ways no one could have imagined. The journey from lightning in the skies to the controlled flow of electricity in Volta's battery represents one of humanity's most profound leaps in understanding. It shows the power of observation, curiosity, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge, a pattern that would continue as inventors worked to turn this invisible force into practical tools for everyday life. Telegraphs, electromagnetism, and the dawn of practical electricity. By the early 19th century, electricity had moved from a scientific curiosity to a powerful tool for communication and experimentation. The groundwork laid by Volta, Davy, and Faraday enabled inventors to begin exploring practical applications of electric current, forever changing the way humans connected and experienced the world. One of the earliest and most transformative applications was the electric telegraph. The telegraph allowed messages to travel across long distances almost instantaneously, something that had previously been impossible. Prior to this invention, communication relied on horses, ships, or runners, all of which could take days or weeks. With the telegraph, a message could traverse hundreds of miles in seconds, powered by the invisible flow of electricity through wires. The foundation for this technology came from Hans Christian Røsted's discovery in 1820 that an electric current produces a magnetic field. This insight connected electricity and magnetism in a way that had profound implications for engineering and communication. Soon after, expanded on these findings, formalizing the principles of electromagnetism, which provided the theoretical basis for controlling electrical currents to transmit information. Inventors began experimenting with devices that could send coded messages using electricity. Samuel Morse, an American artist and inventor, developed the Morse code system in the 1830s and 1840s, which translated letters and numbers into sequences of dots and dashes. Morse's work, combined with the telegraph, allowed messages to travel across continents and oceans, fundamentally altering commerce, diplomacy, and personal communication. Meanwhile, Michael Faraday was exploring the more subtle and mysterious properties of electricity. His experiments in electromagnetic induction, discovering that moving a magnet through a coil of wire generates an electric current, laid the foundation for the electric generator, a device that could convert mechanical motion into usable electrical energy. Faraday's work was pivotal, as it offered a practical method to produce electricity on demand rather than relying solely on chemical batteries. In Europe, Joseph Henry, an American scientist, conducted parallel experiments that further refined the understanding of electromagnetism. His work on electromagnets and magnetic fields contributed to the design of early telegraph systems and devices that could amplify and control electrical currents. These discoveries bridged the gap between laboratory science and real-world application, allowing electricity to move beyond experimentation into infrastructure. By the mid-1800s, the first commercial telegraph lines were established. Wires were strung across countries, linking cities and ports. Telegraph offices became bustling centers of communication, and the speed at which information could travel transformed society. Stock markets, news dissemination, and military operations all began to rely on this new, instantaneous technology. The world was beginning to shrink, not physically, but in the speed and immediacy of communication, and electricity was at the heart of this transformation. Alongside communication, scientists and inventors were exploring electric light. Experiments with gas and candles had illuminated homes and streets for centuries, but they were dim, smoky, and hazardous. Early inventors sought to harness electricity to create a cleaner, brighter, and safer source of light. Humphrey Davy, building on the discoveries of Volta and Faraday, created the first arc lamp in 1806 by connecting a battery to two carbon rods. He produced a bright, sustained arc of light, though impractical for everyday use due to its intensity and instability. This invention demonstrated the potential of electrical illumination. Further developments followed. Over the decades, inventors experimented with filaments, vacuum tubes, and gas discharge lamps, each step bringing electricity closer to practical, everyday application. These innovations required patience, meticulous observation, and countless trials. As inventors learned to control current, prevent overheating, and create materials that could withstand electrical energy without burning out. As you relax and imagine early telegraph offices buzzing with the flow of electricity, or scientists observing sparks and arcs in dimly lit laboratories, consider the magnitude of these discoveries. The invisible force that Thales observed in rubbed amber, and that Franklin tested in a stormy sky, was now touching daily life. It was moving messages, illuminating spaces, and hinting at a future where electricity would become indispensable. The experiments of this era highlight a crucial point. Electricity was no longer just a phenomenon to be studied. It was a tool that could change the world. Each spark, each wire, and each experiment brought humanity closer to the moment when homes would be lit at the flick of a switch, factories powered by unseen currents, and communication possible across continents in an instant. From sparks to light, the race to illuminate the world by the mid-19th century. Electricity had become a tangible force, capable of communication, experimentation, and illumination. While telegraphs transformed the way humans shared information, inventors began to envision a world lit by electric light, free from the smoke, heat, and hazards of candles and gas lamps. This vision sparked a race to create a practical, reliable, incandescent light bulb, a quest that would forever change daily life. The journey toward electric light was gradual and filled with trial and error. Early experiments with electrical arcs, like Humphrey Davy's arc lamp, produced brilliant illumination but were impractical for home use. Arc lamps required high voltage, produced intense heat, and were difficult to control. They were suitable only for public spaces or demonstrations, not the intimate environments of living rooms or offices. In the 1850s and 1860s, inventors turned their attention to incandescence, the process of producing light by heating a filament until it glows. Several inventors made important contributions. In England, Frederick de Molins patented an incandescent lamp in 1841, while Warren de la Rue experimented with coiled platinum filaments in evacuated tubes. These early attempts demonstrated the principle but faced significant limitations. Filaments burned out quickly, and materials were expensive or difficult to produce. In 1878, the race accelerated with the work of Sir Joseph Swan, a British physicist and chemist. Swan experimented with carbonized paper filaments enclosed in glass bulbs, reducing the amount of oxygen to slow combustion. By 1879, he successfully demonstrated a lamp that could glow steadily for hours. Swan's invention marked a breakthrough in making electric light practical and safe, though it was still not fully reliable for widespread commercial use. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Thomas Edison was independently working on a solution in the United States. Edison approached the problem systematically, focusing on three critical aspects: a high-resistance filament, a reliable vacuum, and a complete electrical system for generating and distributing power. Edison tested thousands of materials for filaments, from cotton and linen to bamboo and various metals, seeking one that could burn steadily without burning out too quickly. In October 1879, Edison achieved a major breakthrough: a carbonized bamboo filament that glowed for more than 1,200 hours in a vacuum-sealed bulb. This achievement was more than just a scientific milestone. It was a foundation for a practical, commercially viable electric light. Edison's meticulous experimentation, combined with his understanding of electrical systems, allowed him to create not just a lamp, but an entire electrical lighting system, including generators, wiring, and switches. Swan and Edison eventually joined forces. merging their patents and expertise to bring electric lighting to homes, streets, and businesses. By the early 1880s, electric lights were beginning to replace gas lamps in public spaces, theaters, and some private residences. Cities like New York, London, and Paris began installing electric streetlights, transforming urban life and setting the stage for the electrified world we know today. The impact of electric light was profound. It extended productive hours beyond sunset, enhanced safety, and improved the quality of life. Factories could operate longer, schools and offices could work efficiently after dark, and homes became warmer, brighter, and more comfortable. The light bulb was more than a convenience, it was a symbol of human ingenuity and the transformative power of electricity. As you relax and imagine Edison's laboratory, filled with thousands of glowing filaments, or Swan carefully testing carbonized threads in dimly lit glass bulbs, picture the quiet determination, the countless failures, and the eureka moments that brought illumination to the world. Each flicker of light was the culmination of decades of curiosity, experimentation, and perseverance, a bridge from the mysterious sparks of amber and lightning to the practical technology that now lights our lives. The invention of the incandescent bulb also sparked imagination about what electricity could achieve. If it could illuminate homes and streets, what else might it power? Motors, machines, communication devices, and later, computers all would trace their origins to the same experiments that tamed light. The stage was set for an electrified world, where the invisible currents discovered by Thales Franklin and Volta could be harnessed to transform society, illuminating cities, power, competition, and the birth of electrification. With the invention of the practical incandescent bulb, humanity had unlocked the ability to light homes and streets with electricity. Yet, a single glowing bulb was only the beginning. To truly transform society, electricity needed to be distributed on a large scale, reaching neighborhoods, businesses, and entire cities. This challenge gave rise to an era of innovation, competition, and vision, as inventors and industrialists worked to electrify the modern world. Thomas Edison was at the forefront of this movement. Recognizing that the bulb alone was insufficient, he developed a complete system for generating, distributing, and regulating electric power. In 1882, Edison opened the world's first commercial central power station, Pearl Street Station, in New York City. The station generated direct current, DC electricity, which powered lamps in nearby buildings, demonstrating the practicality of citywide electrification. Edison's DC system was efficient for short distances, but it faced significant limitations. Electricity could only travel a few miles before voltage dropped, requiring multiple stations to cover larger areas. Despite these limitations, Edison's achievement was revolutionary. For the first time, a city could be illuminated electrically, replacing gas lamps and giving people safer, cleaner, and brighter streets and homes. Meanwhile, another visionary, George Westinghouse, recognized the potential of alternating current AC to overcome the distance limitations of Edison's direct current system. AC could be transmitted over long distances using transformers, allowing a single power station to supply electricity across entire cities or even regions. Westinghouse, in partnership with the brilliant inventor Nikola Tesla, developed systems to generate, transmit, and safely distribute AC electricity. The rivalry between Edison and Westinghouse, often called the War of Currents, captivated the public and shaped the future of electrification. Edison promoted DC as safer and more stable, while Westinghouse and Tesla championed AC for its efficiency over long distances. The competition involved public demonstrations, debates, and even sensational attempts to prove the dangers of AC. Despite the tension, this rivalry accelerated innovation, pushing both sides to refine technology, improve safety, and expand electrical infrastructure. In 1893, the conflict reached a turning point at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Westinghouse, with Tesla's AC system, successfully powered the fair, lighting thousands of lamps, fountains, and rides. The dramatic display of electric light impressed millions of visitors and demonstrated the practicality, and elegance of AC distribution. This event solidified AC as a dominant method for large-scale electrification, shaping the structure of modern power grids around the world. As cities embraced electricity, society began to change in profound ways. Factories could operate longer and more efficiently, powered by electric motors rather than steam engines. Public spaces became safer at night, and homes gained conveniences like electric lighting, heating, and eventually, appliances. The glow of electric light reshaped the rhythms of daily life, extending work hours, enabling education after dark, and creating new opportunities for social and cultural activity. Electricity also sparked imagination and experimentation in other areas. Scientists and inventors explored electric motors, telephones, and early forms of wireless communication. Streetcars, trams, and trains began to adopt electric power, transforming transportation and urban development. Each new application revealed electricity's versatility, hinting at the even greater transformations yet to come in the 20th century. As you relax and imagine the streets of New York or Chicago, once lit by flickering gas lamps, and now glowing under steady electric light, picture the hum of generators, the careful threading of wires across poles, and the excitement of inventors watching their systems come to life. The efforts of Edison, Westinghouse, Tesla, and countless engineers and laborers made electricity tangible and accessible, turning an invisible force into a part of everyday life. The electrification of cities marked a turning point in human history. It demonstrated the practical power of electricity, revealed its potential for transforming society, and set the stage for a future in which electric energy would become indispensable for communication, industry, entertainment, and daily comfort. From lightning in the sky to steady currents flowing through copper wires, humanity had mastered a force that had once seemed magical, harnessing it to illuminate the night and connect the world. Electricity in homes and industries, transforming daily life. By the early 20th century, electricity had moved beyond laboratories and city streets to reshape homes, workplaces, and industries. The vision of a world illuminated by electric light and powered by invisible currents was becoming a reality, and its effects rippled through society in profound and lasting ways. The introduction of electricity into homes transformed domestic life. Before electric lighting, households relied on candles, oil lamps, or gas fixtures, all of which were dim, smoky, and dangerous. The arrival of electric bulbs brought bright, steady, and safe illumination, extending waking hours and enabling new forms of leisure and productivity. Families could read, work, or socialize long after sunset, and the quality of life improved in subtle but significant ways. Alongside lighting, inventors began to develop electric appliances that eased daily chores. Early devices included fans, irons, toasters, and water heaters, each powered by the same currents that lit homes. These innovations reduced manual labor, increased comfort, and offered a glimpse of a future where electricity would become an essential utility, integrated seamlessly into everyday life. Industries were also transformed. Factories no longer relied solely on steam engines or water wheels. Electric motors allowed machinery to be powered with greater efficiency, flexibility, and safety. Production lines became more sophisticated, and new industries emerged. From electric tramways and elevators to communication technologies, the presence of electricity enabled faster innovation, turning cities into hubs of productivity and opportunity. The social impact of electrification was equally profound. Urban centers began to glow at night, streets became safer, and public spaces like theaters, train stations, and offices extended their hours of operation. People experienced a shift in their daily rhythms, as the sun was no longer the sole measure of time and activity. The accessibility of electric light and power also contributed to public health, reducing the risks associated with open flames and indoor pollution from gas or coal lamps. The spread of electricity was uneven, reflecting the disparities between urban and rural areas, rich and poor regions. Major cities adopted power systems first, while rural areas often waited decades to gain access to electrical infrastructure. Programs such as the Rural Electrification Act in the United States during the 1930s sought to bridge this gap, recognizing that access to electricity was not merely a convenience, but a vital factor for economic development, education, and quality of life. Scientific discoveries continued to advance practical applications of electricity. Innovations in electrical engineering, including improved wiring, switches, and safety mechanisms, made electricity more reliable and user-friendly. Engineers and inventors experimented with alternating current AC systems, transformers, and circuit design, all of which enabled electricity to flow safely over long distances and power increasingly complex devices. As households and industries embraced electricity, it also became a cultural symbol of progress and modernity. Homes with electric lighting and appliances were considered modern and prosperous, and cities with illuminated streets signaled technological advancement and civic pride. Electricity came to represent not just convenience, but the triumph of human ingenuity over natural limitations, a force that could tame darkness and empower society. Imagine, as you relax, walking through an early 20th century city at night. Streetlights cast a steady glow, factories hum with electrical energy, and homes shine warmly in the darkness. Families gather around electric lamps to read, play games, or simply enjoy the novelty of illumination that requires no flame or smoke. You can almost hear the quiet buzz of current in wires, the soft click of switches, and the gentle whirl of fans cooling rooms. Gentle, invisible force shaping everyday life in ways that were once unimaginable. The electrification of homes and industries marked a profound transformation. It demonstrated the practical power of the discoveries of Volta, Faraday, Edison, and Westinghouse, showing that electricity could enhance human comfort, productivity, and connectivity. From the thrill of seeing a light bulb glow for the first time to the convenience of electric appliances in daily routines, electricity had moved from a mysterious force to an indispensable part of life. Electric transportation, powering the movement of cities as electricity spread through homes and industries. Inventors and engineers began to envision a future where it could move people and goods as efficiently as it illuminated streets. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed the birth of electric transportation, reshaping urban landscapes and transforming the rhythm of daily life. Before electricity, urban transport relied heavily on horses, steam engines, or human power. These methods were slow, labor-intensive, and often polluted the streets with smoke and waste. Electric power promised a cleaner, faster, and more reliable alternative. The earliest experiments involved electric trams and streetcars, designed to replace horse-drawn carriages and provide efficient city transit. In 1881, the first electric streetcar began operating in Lichterfelde, near Berlin, Germany. Powered by overhead wires, the system demonstrated that electric vehicles could move smoothly, quietly, and without relying on combustible fuels. Cities around the world took notice, and by the 1890s, electric streetcars had become common in major urban centers, including New York, London, and San Francisco. These vehicles revolutionized urban life, enabling people to live farther from their workplaces, while still commuting efficiently. Giving rise to the modern concept of the suburban commute, electric trains also began to transform regional and long-distance travel. Unlike steam locomotives, which required extensive fueling, generated smoke, and demanded heavy maintenance, electric trains were cleaner, quieter, and more reliable. Electrification of railways allowed for faster travel, improved scheduling, and reduced pollution in densely populated areas. Cities with electric rail networks grew more connected, encouraging economic growth and urban expansion. The electrification of transportation was not limited to rails. Early electric trolleys, elevators, and even rudimentary electric automobiles began appearing in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Although internal combustion engines eventually dominated personal vehicles, the principles of electric mobility laid the foundation for modern electric cars, subways, and urban transit systems that rely on clean energy and efficient infrastructure. The societal impact of electric transportation was profound. Commuting became faster and more predictable. City streets were quieter and less polluted, and workers had greater access to employment opportunities across urban regions. The rhythm of daily life changed. People could travel farther, live in more comfortable neighborhoods, and experience urban spaces in ways that were previously impossible. Electric transit also reshaped urban design. Cities began to expand along streetcar and train lines, giving rise to new neighborhoods, commercial districts, and civic centers. Public lighting combined with electric transport created a dynamic nightscape, making cities safer and more vibrant after dark. Electrification, in this sense, not only powered movement but also redefined the spatial and temporal experience of urban life. Imagine walking through an early 20th century city as electric trams glide silently past, their overhead wires humming softly. Streetlights cast a steady glow over the streets, and the occasional electric trolley or train rolls by, transporting passengers efficiently and quietly. The air smells cleaner without smoke from horses or steam engines, and the city feels alive, organized, and modern. All powered by the invisible currents that flow through wires and motors. The development of electric transportation was a key step in realizing the full potential of electricity. It demonstrated that this force could do more than illuminate or power machines. It could reshape movement, accessibility, and the very structure of cities. From trams to trains, elevators to early automobiles, electricity was steadily becoming an integral part of daily life, silently influencing patterns of work, leisure, and urban growth. By the early decades of the 20th century, electricity had moved from a scientific curiosity to a transformative force, touching nearly every aspect of human life, lighting homes, powering factories, moving people, and connecting cities. Yet, this was only the beginning. As inventors continued to explore its possibilities, electricity would soon enable telecommunication, entertainment, and the electrification of nearly every modern convenience we now take for granted, electrifying communication and entertainment, connecting the world. As electricity illuminated cities and powered transportation, it also began to revolutionize the way humans communicated and entertained themselves. By the early 20th century, inventors and engineers were exploring how to use electric currents not just for light or motion, but to transmit information and create new forms of entertainment, forever reshaping social life. One of the most profound applications of electricity was the telephone. Perfected by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876, Bell's invention transformed human interaction by allowing voices to travel over long distances instantaneously. While early telegraph systems transmitted coded messages, the telephone transmitted speech, making communication more personal, immediate, and powerful. Telephone networks quickly expanded, connecting homes, businesses, and government offices, shrinking the psychological distance between people and laying the foundation for a connected world. The early 20th century also saw the rise of radio, which used electrical signals to broadcast sound through the air. Inventors like Guglielmo Marconi pioneered wireless telegraphy and radio communication, enabling messages and entertainment to reach vast audiences without the need for physical wires. By the 1920s, radio stations were broadcasting music, news, and storytelling into homes across the globe, creating shared cultural experiences and introducing electricity as a medium for entertainment. Electricity also transformed theater and cinema. Early movie projectors and film theaters relied on electrical power to illuminate screens and operate machinery. Cities began to feature electric marquees and streetlights, turning entertainment districts into luminous hubs of excitement. Families and communities could gather to enjoy performances that were brighter, safer, and more immersive than ever before. Electricity had become not just a practical utility, but a cultural force that shaped leisure, imagination, and social interaction. The expansion of electrical networks made these innovations possible. Power stations, transformers, and wiring systems distributed electricity reliably across cities, enabling households to plug in radios, phonographs, and other devices. Electrified communication and entertainment fostered a sense of shared experience, as news and music could reach thousands simultaneously, creating early forms of global consciousness. The social implications were remarkable. Communities once isolated by distance could now access the same information and entertainment. Families gathered around electric radios for news or music, creating moments of connection and shared experience. Young people were inspired by movies and radio shows, while businesses and governments utilized telephones and telegraphs to coordinate activity with unprecedented speed and accuracy. Imagine sitting in a dimly lit living room in the 1920s, the soft glow of an electric lamp illuminating a family gathered around a radio. The voices of broadcasters carry news from distant cities, while music fills the room, connecting listeners to a larger world beyond their immediate surroundings. Outside, electric streetlights shine along city avenues, and the distant hum of trams and subways underscores the rhythm of urban life, all powered by the same invisible currents discovered centuries earlier in amber, lightning, and Volta's early battery. The electrification of communication and entertainment demonstrated electricity's versatility and power. It was no longer just a force for illumination or motion. It had become a medium for connection, culture, and human expression. Electricity transformed cities into dynamic, interconnected spaces and made it possible for individuals to engage with the wider world in ways that were previously unimaginable. By the mid-20th century, electricity had firmly established itself as the lifeblood of modern civilization, enabling communication, entertainment, industry, transportation, and domestic comfort. It had moved from the realm of curiosity and experimentation into every corner of daily life, influencing how people lived, worked, and interacted with the world. Electricity in the 20th century, innovation, and the rise of electronics. By the 20th century, electricity had become a cornerstone of modern life, powering homes, cities, industries, and transportation. But its potential was far from fully realized. Inventors, engineers, and scientists continued to explore new ways to harness this invisible force, giving rise to industrial innovation, scientific breakthroughs, and the early foundations of electronic technology. In industry, electricity transformed manufacturing. Factories could now run electric motors that were cleaner, quieter, and more reliable than steam engines. Assembly lines became more efficient, allowing mass production of goods, ranging from cars to household appliances. The rise of electric power also enabled the development of new materials and processes, including electroplating, chemical synthesis, and metal refining. Electricity became not just a tool, but a catalyst for industrial progress, increasing productivity and reshaping economies. Scientific research also flourished under the influence of electricity. Experiments with high-voltage currents, radio waves, and electromagnetic fields led to profound discoveries in physics and chemistry. Figures like Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, and Ernest Rutherford explored the relationship between electricity, energy, and atomic structure, paving the way for the 20th century's technological revolution. Electricity became a gateway to understanding the fundamental forces of nature, linking the practical world of light and motors to the mysteries of atoms and energy. Electronics began to emerge as a field in its own right. Vacuum tubes, invented in the early 1900s, allowed scientists and engineers to amplify electrical signals, creating the first electronic circuits. These devices became essential for radios, telegraphs, early computers, and communication systems, extending electricity's influence from mechanical work to information processing. By the 1930s and 1940s, electrical circuits were not only powering lights and motors, they were transmitting and processing information in entirely new ways. The development of household electronics further transformed daily life. Radios, refrigerators, electric stoves, and fans became common in middle-class homes, offering comfort, convenience, and entertainment. Cities became more vibrant as electricity powered streetlights, neon signs, and public transport, while households embraced electric appliances that simplified chores and improved quality of life. The cultural impact of electricity was immense. It redefined the relationship between humans and their environment, creating modern lifestyles that were previously impossible. World events accelerated the demand for electrical innovation. During both world wars, electricity powered communication systems, industrial production, and military technology. Radar, early computing machines, and electronic navigation systems relied on electrical principles discovered over centuries. These applications underscored electricity's role as a strategic and transformative force, essential not only to daily life, but also to national security and global power. Imagine walking through a bustling city in the 1930s or 1940s. Neon signs illuminate theaters and shops. Streetcars hum along electrified rails, and homes glow warmly with electric lights. Inside, families listen to the latest radio programs, operate kitchen appliances, and marvel at new gadgets that make life easier. The hum of electrical grids, the soft whir of motors, and the flicker of radio tubes create a quiet symphony of modernity. Powered by the same principles first observed in lightning, amber, and Volta's battery, electricity had evolved from a mysterious natural force into a dynamic, multifaceted tool that transformed nearly every aspect of human life. It illuminated cities, powered industries, enabled long-distance communication, and launched the era of electronics. The discoveries of Thales, Franklin, Volta, Faraday, Edison, Westinghouse, and countless others culminated in a world where electricity was not only understood but harnessed, controlled, and integrated into daily life. As the 20th century progressed, electricity continued to expand its reach, laying the foundation for computers, telecommunications, space exploration, and digital technology. What began as sparks and amber and lightning in the sky had become a force shaping civilization itself, connecting people, powering progress, and inspiring innovation at every turn. The legacy of electricity, from curiosity to civilization, from the earliest observations of static sparks in amber to the controlled currents illuminating cities and powering industries. The story of electricity is one of curiosity, ingenuity, and persistence. Over thousands of years, humans transformed a mysterious natural phenomenon into a force that defines modern life. The journey began with natural wonders, lightning in stormy skies, the magnetism of lodestones, and the small shocks from rubbed amber. Philosophers and early scientists marveled at these phenomena, asking questions and seeking patterns. Their experiments, often simple but insightful, laid the groundwork for understanding the invisible forces that connect the world. The 18th century brought systematic experimentation. Benjamin Franklin demonstrated the connection between lightning and electricity, while Alessandro Volta created the first battery, turning electricity from a fleeting spark into a continuous, controllable current. Scientists like Humphrey Davy and Michael Faraday expanded knowledge further, exploring electrochemistry, electromagnetism, and induction. These discoveries transformed electricity from a natural curiosity into a scientific and practical tool. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw electricity reach the public sphere. Edison and Swan's incandescent bulbs illuminated homes and streets. Westinghouse and Tesla's alternating current systems powered cities, making long-distance electricity distribution possible. Electricity reshaped homes, industries, and transportation, giving rise to modern appliances, streetcars, trains, and the connected, vibrant urban landscapes we now take for granted. Communication and entertainment followed. The telephone, telegraph, radio, and cinema connected people across distances, creating shared experiences and bringing distant worlds closer together. Electrification extended human reach, allowing voices, images, and ideas to travel in ways once limited to imagination. Electricity was no longer just a practical tool, it became a medium for culture, connection, and creativity. By the 20th century, electricity powered not only homes and cities, but also industries, scientific exploration, and eventually computing and electronics. From early vacuum tubes to modern circuits, electricity became the backbone of technological progress. It enabled space exploration, telecommunications, medical technology, and digital innovations, shaping a world unimaginable to the early observers of sparks and lightning. Reflecting on this journey, one sees a pattern of curiosity, experimentation, and perseverance. Each discovery, built on the last, a spark in amber-inspired theories. Franklin's kite experiment connected sky and laboratory. Volta's battery provided steady current. Edison and Westinghouse made light and power practical. Faraday and Tesla revealed the deep principles of electromagnetic energy. Over centuries, humanity gradually tamed this invisible force, integrating it into daily life in ways that define modern civilization. Imagine, as you lay back, the quiet hum of a modern city. Streetlights glow softly, homes shine warmly, electric motors turn in factories, and digital devices flicker with life. This world, powered by electricity, is the culmination of millennia of observation, imagination, and invention. The same force that once flashed in the sky or made amber tingle now connects people, illuminates cities, and powers human progress. Electricity's story is far from over. As we move into the future, new discoveries, renewable energy technologies, wireless power, and quantum innovations continue to unfold. The journey from lightning to light bulbs reminds us that curiosity, creativity, and perseverance can transform even the most mysterious natural forces into tools that shape the destiny of humanity. So, as you drift toward sleep, imagine the invisible currents flowing silently through wires, connecting past, present, and future. Imagine the sparks of discovery that turned simple observation into the glowing, humming, electrified world we inhabit today. From the tiniest shock in amber to the power grids lighting entire continents, electricity remains a symbol of human ingenuity, wonder, and endless possibility.